Hello, everyone, and welcome to Let's Take Five, the podcast where we pick one of cinema's greats and take five of their film to look at their range and excellence. My name is Austin Luker.
My name's Eric Martindale.
And we're not doing that this week. We are having a fun bonus episode. This is October. We have done 25 official episodes now, and we just want to do a fun one. So we are taking a look at a genre we both enjoy, which is horror films, and we're going to take 5 horror films and look at why... essentially the genre.
Yeah,
we're
just looking at the genre this time. I love October.
Me too. I made the thing that my girlfriend is not happy about, which is a 7-page menu of horror films I haven't seen. Like, we can watch any of these tonight.
Yeah, it's really hard for me because my girlfriend hates horror films.
Yeah.
She has a visceral reaction to them, which I can never understand. But you're even more than me. Austin does not get scared.
Yeah.
He just doesn't have that emotion.
Nah.
I like it. I like playing with it. Like I like getting down in the dirt and being kind of creeped out, but I never go full bore.
Right.
So
well, to me it's like a roller coaster. I love roller coasters. It's the fun of the thrill. I don't think I'm going to die. I think that's built into horror.
Yeah.
I don't actually feel ever threatened in a horror film. I just enjoy a director making a canvas for suspense and terror.
Yeah, okay, yeah, no, that's great. And I think there's something about horror films where, like in general, horror films suck. They're generally not good.
Terrible average.
They're probably about the lowest average as far as genres are concerned. That said, great horror films are great. Mm-hmm. They're really, really great. So, anyway.
So we picked 5 films, and this is the fastest we've ever agreed.
Yeah,
it really is. Of just kind of 5 horror films that we think are excellent examples of the genre and are also excellent films. Mm-hmm. The 5 we have chosen to discuss today in a kind of short little segments.
Are we going to deliver it all right now?
Oh yeah. Oh, you want to space it out?
I feel like spacing it out would almost be more fun.
But it's going to be in the info for the podcast.
Oh yeah, never mind.
Yeah.
There's that.
Don't look at that. No, let's say the 5.
Okay.
The 5 we're going to do in order right now are Psycho, The Exorcist, Halloween, Alien, and It Follows.
Okay.
One of these is not like the other, but I love it.
Yeah, that is true. That's true.
So, I mean, horror's been around forever. The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari is a silent film that is awesome and creepy and weird and a great twist ending. Nosferatu, also a fantastic horror silent film. So I feel like we're actually missing a lot from those earlier decades, but it's kind of cool that we don't have the built-in nostalgia for the 60s and 70s, but we picked mostly films from there.
Yeah.
And it's really curious to see what was being done there. And Psycho, we're going to start off with. This is a film from 1960, directed by Alfred Hitchcock, based on a novel, and it is about a woman who steals some money from her bank to continue having an affair with her boyfriend, and there's some trouble in the weather. So she goes to this Bates Motel, hoping to have a nice little time.
That was her second mistake.
Yes. Absolutely. And meets Norm Bates, and bad things happen. As we do for every episode of Let's Take 5, we are going to have spoils for all the films we have here.
Yeah.
So she dies.
Can I talk about? So it's interesting. Just something really funny about this is that you say that okay, this is a film about a woman who steals money from a bank. Mm-hmm. No, I don't know. What I mean is just okay, you would think that's what it's about for probably about 50 minutes.
Yeah.
But I've never seen a film subvert expectations like this. And it would almost piss me off if both sides of this conflict, of this happening, weren't so brilliantly done. And by the happening, I mean she gets murdered. So we follow her for a very, very long time after she steals this money. And the suspense builds unbelievably. Her getting the traffic cop incident, him watching her from across the street.
I adore that moment.
Yeah, and she's falling into these traps. I mean, I've never seen anyone act more guilty in my life. Did she commit a crime? No, but why is she acting so damn guilty? I mean, she did commit a crime. I'm talking about from the cop's perspective, yes. Right? And why he won't leave her alone. And it builds that suspense unbelievable. I'm having that song in my head, the score in my head, while she's driving. It's so good.
Bernard Herrmann.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's brilliant. And then you're following it, and you start to empathize with her a little bit, but you're like, why is she doing this? Why is she making this mistake? And then she gets murdered, and you go, oh, wait. Oh, what? It's such a what moment.
I listened to a podcast recently. It's a really great podcast with a lot of Chicago critics. It's called The Last Picture Show. And the premise of that podcast is that they take a modern film and then look at an older film to kind of see how they relate. And they did that with 10 Cloverfield Lane. And they talked about Psycho for an episode. And they talked about, I forget the exact word they used, but instead of a twist, it's an entire shift in the entire plot and tone of the movie.
It's two different movies.
And it's brilliant.
Yeah, I know. And like I said, normally it would piss me off, but both of them are done with such... excellence. Gosh, I wish I could think of another adjective.
Because at this point, Hitchcock is at the top of his career.
Yeah.
I mean, his last film was North-Northwest, his biggest hit, and he has mastered the art of this. He is so clever about... I mean, we talked about Spielberg for 5 movies in a row. They're very similar because the camera is an extension of their hand. They know how to craft everything so perfectly. And for so many films now, he's been using that towards suspense. Fun thrills, the roller coaster element. And this is the real first time he went full-on horror. Mm-hmm. And the results are incredible.
Yeah, they are. And it takes confidence to do something like this. I mean, really, just to put so much focus on that first half of the film. One thing that I think is really brilliant, just something that I love, the scene where she decides to actually steal the money and the money's on the bed, you know. Okay, so she puts the money in her purse. So we know she's going to steal the money, but she would have had to put the money in her purse anyway. Mm-hmm. Because she has to take it to the bank.
Yeah.
So she has to take the money with her anyway, right? To wherever she's going. So, but because of the way he moves the camera, and because of the way she's acting, and because of the way the music is going, we know she's stealing the money. We see her make the decision to do that. Again, such confidence is just done so unbelievably well. I mean,
the cop across the street, she's getting a new car, and he's just so still. That's incredible filmmaking. Yeah.
It's always shown from a distance. You're never close to the cop. Wide. You just see him over there in a voyeuristic type of way.
And I love the part when she's driving, even before or after that, where she just has the monologue going. It's such a long take for this kind of thing, especially in this kind of filmmaking. And just kind of worry. It just kind of creating anxiety and worry. And, okay, we're taking a hotel for the night, but the reason the shift is so brilliant is because she still has X, Y, and Z things to do. Mm-hmm. This is at the very end where it's like, oh, all I have to do is turn in my last paycheck.
Yeah.
No. She is coming to the decision to take back the money, but it's too late because you just went to a psycho's house.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to say this because the acting in this film is so good. It's really good. It's not what you expect for a movie made in this era because you're expecting, like, you know, less subtlety. I mean, the subtlety is not something that exists in films made in this era, and that's fine because when you watch those films, they're all doing it and it all fits. It only becomes jarring when you watch Marlon Brando with Vivian Leigh.
Right.
Like, then you're like, okay, these are two different styles.
Yeah.
Actor playing Norman Bates.
Andy Perkins.
Yes. Unbelievable. He is so good. He's so wonderfully nuanced, and he never tells too much. And when the screws finally get put to him by the detective, I know you watch this film a million times. I've seen it probably 3 times. But the way the camera starts to get closer to them as the screws start to get in each cut, and you're starting to see, like, his eye twitch. It's just the subtlety that you don't expect in that era. And it's done so wonderfully.
He is brilliant in this movie, and it's a complete bummer he was typecast forever.
Yeah.
He took comment on that because he was also very good in Orson Welles' The Trial. And also, he was very weirdly in a Sondheim musical adaptation. Also, he wrote a movie with Stephen Sondheim, a murder mystery. The guy's an interesting dude. But him in Psycho, it takes a certain actor to play uncomfortable because it's very easy to be like the awkward guy in a script. Mm-hmm. But when he's first talking to Marion Crane and they're in that room of his, and there's all these birds everywhere, these taxidermy birds, but just the lack of banter. Mm-hmm. The talking back and forth is just so uncomfortable because...
Well, he pontificates about taxidermy.
Yeah, he is. And he's just not a social person. He's not used to actually having conversations, and he's just doing very small things wrong, and that aren't telegraphed, so now everyone feels uncomfortable, and they don't know why. Yeah. And then it gets worse.
And you felt that way anyway because of the way Hitchcock had just done the movie to this point. Mm-hmm. If you're in the movie theater, though, this is unlike any film or TV show or medium I've ever seen, you don't expect her to get murdered. No. That doesn't make sense. Like the last thing you're expecting right now is to see a man dressed up like a woman stab her to death in a bathtub. It's cliche now because we know it because we love film and everyone thinks about that. But just try to take yourself back to that time.
Especially because also we don't know it's not a woman.
Exactly.
And there's so many things like it's so brilliant. They had a really fun marketing campaign for this movie where movie theaters were not allowed to let you in if more than 5 minutes had gone by in the film. And they begged you and everything, don't tell your friends what happened. So I thought it was a bummer that we all know the shower scene. That's the most famous scene for this movie.
Or it's like Darth Vader is Luke's father.
Right. Yeah. Or we all know the ending of Sixth Sense before we've seen it. Except people probably don't know when it happened.
Yes!
Because when I showed my girlfriend this movie a couple years ago, we watched it, and she goes, "What?" I said, "How do you not know the shower scene is?" She goes, "Oh, I thought it was at the end of the film."
Exactly.
And she goes, well, what happens next? I go, another hour.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point. I mean, that pivot, that's what makes the pivot unbelievable and so relatable to audiences today. People haven't seen the film. Yes, they know the shower sequence is coming. They're still not expecting their protagonist to get murdered 45 minutes into the film. I'm sorry.
The film is so brilliant because now it's more of a cat and mouse game, but it's a cat and mouse game where we don't know who the cat is because you think the mom is alive now because we saw her in the window and we saw her kill someone, but now the judge said that she is dead, and now we saw this, and this. It is brilliant.
Yeah.
And the death of the detective, the sequence when Norman Bates is watching the car go into the lake.
Yeah.
I love that scene.
It's great. The death of the detective, too. That's incredible.
As we wrap up this kind of small little review, we have to talk about the Oscars because it's a fun snapshot.
Sure. I love doing it.
It was up for a couple of Oscars, and it lost all of them, which is quite a bummer. But I want to know if you agree with this. It lost Best Director to Billy Wilder for The Apartment.
Yeah. No, I don't agree with that. Wow, that's tough.
I know.
I would not have voted for Billy Wilder. I love The Apartment.
We reviewed it back in episode 10.
Yeah. I love it. We've talked about it. But as far... And you know what? Overall, I like The Apartment probably better than Psycho as like a film. Just as my opinion. It's not... Psycho's not my favorite Hitchcock film. It's probably my fourth favorite. But I do love it. I mean, I love it to death. But I just... Directing-wise... I don't know. I don't think I could... I don't think I could say no to his directing in this.
What about art direction?
No, I would.
To me, this is a clear Psycho win.
No, I don't know because I'm thinking. I don't know.
Bates house is. So
I know,
iconic.
and I know. Okay, yeah. I'm thinking about The Office.
The Office is brilliant.
And The Apartment, and The Apartment itself. But you're right. Yeah.
Those are closer to me.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. I prefer Rear Window and North by Northwest.
I always said Rear Window, but I think it's Psycho for me. Psycho's a masterpiece. And a great example of horror.
Yeah.
Another
all right, so let's
moving
on here. So one that I picked was we picked. Yeah. I think that you can't talk. We're not going to have a William freaking top five.
No,
we're not going to have. That's never going to happen because
he made some good ones.
No, he did. We'll talk about French Connection.
Sure.
We're going to talk about Bug. And I don't like Bug, but we'll probably talk about Bug. But The Exorcist has to be talked about on these type of lists because it is. Here I go again. It's the greatest horror film of all time.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, it just is. And you know what? I really don't like when people talk about The Exorcist in groups because you're always going to have that ass that goes, "Oh yeah, I wasn't scared." Okay, congrats, buddy. It's just such a weird. You always have that in that group, and that's fine. I'm not saying that you should be, but
there's a difference. There are two genres in my mind that really need the audience to feel something for it to be effective. Horror doesn't need you to be scared; it needs you to feel something. But comedies need you to laugh. Mm-hmm. If you say you watched Monty Python and the Holy Grail and you never laughed once, you're not going to like the movie. You can't say it's a good movie, but you didn't laugh once at it for a comedy. Horror film, you can say you didn't get scared, but you can also recognize it's an incredible film.
Yeah.
It can make you feel other things besides actual terror. And the mastery of this film alone is genius. I saw it again in theaters about 5 years ago, and blown away by how brilliant this movie is.
It moves. Gosh, that must have been an amazing experience.
It was so cool.
The Exorcist moves mountains as far as the horror genre is concerned. It paves roads and it has a legacy that it won't be topped. It has a legacy that expands way past the genre as far as its popularity and pulp culture is concerned. I mean, this is a movie that is as famous as Indiana Jones. Okay, is as famous as The Godfather. You know, even if it's not recognized as maybe necessarily being as good as, because it's sort of genreist. But at the same time, like, everyone's heard of that film. People actively avoid that film. People are too scared to watch that movie. Like, for the same reasons people might not watch Star Wars because they're not into sci-fi fantasy. Like, I just don't think I would be into that. Mm-hmm. People are like, oh, no, I'm not watching The Exorcist. Yeah, but, you know, maybe it's not that scary. You know, you're not even... No, I'm not watching that movie.
People like the reaction, I was talking about Schindler's List. Well, I was going to rewatch it for the podcast.
Yeah, okay.
And watch this together? No, I'm not going to put myself through that. It's the same thing for that movie to The Exorcist. I mean, there were reports back in the day when they had not the best lack of laws about manipulation and framings.
Yeah, everyone's going to talk about the subliminal messaging.
That's just, and that did freak out a number of people, but there's so many just incredible things going on. That was one trick he used, but it was nowhere near the end of his bag of tricks in this film.
No, not even close.
Oh my God.
Her, and she had back problems later, but her being ripped up and down in the bed, just going back and forth, it's so inhuman that it's horrifying to watch. And it happens in broad daylight the first time you see her just whipping back up and down in the bed, and Regan. And it's like, oh my God, that's horrifying. But at its core, too, there's this great emotional arc about a father who's losing his faith and him confronting that in the face of the devil. It's incredible. There's also a great nifty little kind of subplot going on with the detective played by Lee J. Cobb, who's...
Love that guy.
I love that guy, yeah.
Best known as the asshole in 12 Angry Men.
Yeah, he's the angriest man in 12 Angry Men. He's also the villain in On the Waterfront. Mm-hmm. He's incredible. He's absolutely incredible. And then, of course, you have Max von Sydow playing the titular exorcist. He's incredible, too.
His role in that is so fascinating because it begins in Afghanistan, right?
I think it's Iraq.
Mm-hmm. Where you see him on an archaeological dig, and basically he's looking for the ancient horrors of the world.
Yeah.
And that sequence, it's about, 15 minutes long?
I think it's longer. It's really long. It's like the dawn of man in 2001. You know, it's
is. And what's awesome about that is that the horror genre doesn't really get the chance to have its epic quality. Mm-hmm. What we have is lack of epic quality, where you have Jason returning from hell to kill for the 20th time. Mm-hmm. That is epic on a long-term scale, but within one film alone, The Exorcist has the gravitas of recognize this is not only just today's horror, this is the horror of the planet and the horror of the gods going after you.
And that, that scene's always confused me, or that part of the film, because at least when I first was watching it, because I was like, what is the significance of this? Other than to present Max von Sydow, and there's evil stuff going on. But now... And then I moved to... Because I felt this way about films before. The first time I saw The Fountain, even though now I have a better idea what it is, but I would go, I don't know what's going on here necessarily, but it's having an emotional effect on me. And I feel it. Film. Yeah, exactly. If this were just about the events that happened in Reagan's bedroom, it wouldn't be as good of a film. You have to know that outside presence of sort of evil. It's bigger than that. This is not just a war for Reagan's soul. It's all and the father's soul who's losing his faith. This is the armies of hell against the armies of the righteous or whatever. And it presents it in such a way, and when they look out and you see like the hyenas fighting in the field or whatever, I didn't know what was going on there. I didn't get that, but I knew it was evil. I knew that.
And it does the balance so well. These are the personal problems. You get to know this Washington family so well. I mean, she's an actress, she's on a set, all these kind of things. Mm-hmm. You see just kind of the nice, mundane elements of their lives for a long time. So it works on a very, like, small scale, like, here are these 5 characters being affected by this. But when you really look at what Father Karras is contemplating, he's contemplating cosmic questions about the universe and how it's affecting him on a personal and giant theological level. And that's what this film is.
And it's weird not to talk about her because she I can't believe I brought her up yet. Reagan's mother. She is an atheist.
Yeah.
So she's having to confront things she's chosen not to have in her life. But when it's in your face and it's evil, what are you going to do? Like it's just these questions of, I mean, everything is probably, and I feel like I've said this a lot, more nuanced than it ever had a right to be. So it's a way bigger than just a flash of the devil's face here and there, or in some subliminal messaging. This is a great drama on top of everything else that's going on.
Well, and her transformation in that is wonderful because, to me, the biggest rock in your shoe in horror films is the character going, "No, Freddy Krueger's not real." Every single person in the audience knows Freddy. It's not a debate. You're just stalling the plot. I hate those characters so much. Yeah. So, but when you have someone like her who is questioning things going on, but she's questioning them at a moment when anyone sane would question them, and to have someone who's very kind of confident in her beliefs as an atheist, and have all these, like, they scientifically go through figure out what's wrong with Reagan. And then when those stop working,
yeah, the exorcism
she has to go towards elements of the faith, and she's not, like, dragging her feet. She goes, this is the only thing that could make sense. Yeah. It's the one who didn't even contemplate any of it making any sense 2 months ago. Mm-hmm. Damn.
That's a really good
great film. It's a complete masterpiece. And, it was fun looking up all the awards that these 5 films have been up for. Not many, except for this movie. This was up for Best Picture, up for Actress, Supporting Actress, Director, and has lost to The Sting a bunch of times.
Yeah, a bunch of times. And, it's interesting. I like this film more than The Sting. I do like The Sting a lot, but, there's a reason why we go through 60s and 70s and a lot of these films are in here. The 70s were so good. Film-wise, it's so good.
It was a wonderfully crazy time. The production code ended. You had people who grew up on film, didn't grow up on theater, that made a film. And so everyone knew how to test the medium in a new, exciting way. Doesn't always work. I just saw a Peter Sellers film recently that was very, very 70s, and it sucked. Mm-hmm. But when it did work, it was something to watch.
It sure was.
Now it's time for a little bit later in the 70s when we've covered now a human doing horrible things, and we now have had godlike creatures doing terrible things. This is the mixture, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a primeval force of some kind. It's pure evil personified.
Yeah.
So the film that we're going to introduce here is Halloween. Halloween. Wow. Okay. So we got an opportunity to watch this film in theaters a couple of Halloweens ago.
It's true.
And we saw a nice print of it, and we're watching it, and it's funny how I feel like because it's been so watered down with sequels, and then the sequels to Halloween that aren't even really sequels, but they exist because Halloween happened, that people, I wonder how many people have actually watched this film. You know what I mean? Because the way people were reacting in the theater, you would think no one had seen the film but me and you.
Yes.
It was unbelievable, and it was wonderful. That was a wonderful experience.
Well, and it's kind of funny because I've apparently seen all these films with my girlfriend recently. Mm-hmm. She watched Halloween. She wasn't there at that screening, but she saw a little bit afterwards just because she saw us rave about it. And she watched it and she got scared. She didn't think she would because, okay, I've seen a billion killer films and masks. No, this film...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think what separates it so much for this film is that it spends so much time in their lives, and John Carpenter films it like just a neighborhood movie. And that's really hard to do, because often when you're doing a parody or a take on a genre, it looks like you're doing a take on the genre. It doesn't look like the genre. But this does. Mm-hmm. And so when you have what looks like a very normal movie, but then when you have Michael Myers standing next to the laundry, you're watching a normal movie with something unnatural placed in it.
Well, Well said.
Oh,
but that is exactly what it is, because the idea is that what you gather from it at the very end is this could come to a neighborhood near you, and it invokes that fear because you're in this very small rural town in Illinois, and it looks really peaceful and sort of serene, and it's Halloween, and the leaves are falling, and everyone's in a good mood, and then there's a murdering psychopath standing in the picture. What's he doing there? What is that? And that's always that about the movie has always fascinated me. It was so, and I understand that a lot of this probably had to do with the budget they had for the film, because it was a very cheap film,
$10.
Yeah, they made this film for a couple bucks. But that really helped it. The rustic nature of the film actually served its purpose. It's scarier that way. And again, there's a lot of daylight shots of Michael Myers in this film. I mean, a lot of them.
And that horror people don't recognize how good that is.
Yeah, or just watching him walk. The Michael Myers walk is famous because it's just a walk.
Yeah.
He's just walking after you, and he's going to get you somehow, some way. That's the thing. The part in the film where it was great. So we think Michael Myers is maybe dead. We hope that he's dead, and he's laying down, and it's completely silent, and then he just sits up.
Like a mummy, almost.
Yeah.
It's just the top half of his body just rises.
And he just sits
in the background.
Up. And we see it. The character doesn't. And the way the reaction, and this is where I was like, has no one seen this film? This is amazing, because there was a palpable when that happened amongst the theater. When that happened, that was so wonderful. And so, like, it's one of those things where, again, it gets watered down by all these sequels and all these films that come later. But at its core, what spawned all this was something that was actually quite significant, quite good. Halloween is my favorite Halloween movie. It just is. I'm not saying it's the scariest movie. I'm not even saying it's the best movie. But it is the most appropriate movie.
You know why? It's because Halloween itself, the actual night, is a night of fun.
Exactly.
It's for kids to collect candy. It's for people our age to wear a dumb costume and go to a bar. Mm-hmm. You know, it's a very fun night. There's no like ancient history of celebrating Columbus or whatever. It's just really fun. Mm-hmm. But it's fun to also watch scary movies. This movie takes an actual day of fun and recognizes the value of such a fun day, and then putting a menace in it.
And that's why it works so well in sort of that rural community where you're able to see these long sidewalks of kids like parading up and down amongst all these houses that they're going to be trick-or-treating at later. And there's a monster. There's a monster out there.
And I think Michael Myers... So... we obviously just talked about Psycho and The Exorcist. I'd never watched those sequels because I really don't want to.
I forgot that Psycho has a sequel.
There's 2 sequels.
Yeah, I know.
And Anthony Perkins is in them because he couldn't get work. This has a number of sequels, and I've seen Halloween 2 and 3, which doesn't Michael Myers in it. Mm-hmm. But
Halloween 3 doesn't.
Yeah, Halloween 3. Okay, Halloween 2 is that
direct sequel.
Yeah. And I've seen all the Nightmare on Elm Street films where Freddy continues doing things, and I've seen a couple of the Jason sequels where Friday the 13th things happen. But those films begin with an already supernatural entity. Friday the 13th is the mom, but the kid still jumps out of the like a fish trying to kill people, and then he's supernatural.
I don't like that movie.
Neither do I. It's really stupid.
Yeah.
But Halloween, I think why I'm so discouraged to keep watching sequels is because the first film you can't get a grasp on him. You have Donald Pleasance being brilliant. This is a psychiatrist who's desperate to track down this guy who's escaped.
He had the blackest eyes.
Yeah.
Evil eyes.
It's still a person to me in Halloween. It's a really strong, really soulless, scary person. But the sequels, to me, it's the epicness I don't like in horror films. The immediate sequel has... You see there's more of a backstory that connects with certain characters that Michael has, and then later on you're going to have him be dead.
Okay.
But I like a man that's scary.
I'm going to make not an argument for this, but I do want to say this film is better on an island. and just being itself.
Yes.
I'll obviously agree with that. Without that, it's a 4-star horror slasher film. Probably the only one that exists other than Psycho, if you would even classify that as a slasher.
Kind of.
But Halloween is just an absolute brilliant film on its own. If you give it sequels, it will lose a bit of its majesty. But if you want to go that route, the route to go is watch Halloween, Halloween 2, Halloween H2O. That actually is a trilogy of sorts.
Yeah.
Each one of those sort of works. Halloween H2O is an okay movie that serves its purpose. It gives an ending to the story. I like Halloween 2. I've been a Halloween 2.
I don't.
Yeah, and I've been a Halloween 2 defender, but it's not great. It's goodish.
Yeah.
There's a really stupid scene where a kid gets run over by a car, and because he's kind of dressed up like Michael Myers accidentally, and it's just really dumb.
It's the same night. That's weird.
yeah, I know. It's just really weird and dumb. It has, but other than that, there's you can have a 4-star movie and then 2.5-star films to me, and then you can get a decent trilogy. The other ones other than that are absolute nonsense. They're absolute nonsense. And Halloween 3 is just batshit insane.
Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, is one of the dumbest premises of all time. I watched with you last year, and great news, I'm going to see it again this year in theaters on a film print because I'm going to a 24-hour horror fest, and that's one of the 12 films. So,
you know what?
Thank God. Second take.
It's actually a fascinating, it's fascinating to watch. It really is.
You can't take your eyes away.
You can't. It's just so. Once you fill in the history of how this movie even was made and where it came about and how people thought Michael Myers was going to be in the film and just all the things that go into it. And this movie is really goofy.
It's about an evil corporation who steals Stonehenge and creates a giant corporate thing to sell Halloween masks to kids. So when then they watch it on Halloween, watch their TV show on Halloween night, they turn into their masks and become monsters, and that's good for them, and it's an alcoholic cop trying to do something and solve the mystery, and there's a non-stop jingle about 3 more days till Halloween.
Yeah,
to make sure the kids watch the TV with their masks on.
The whole movie. It's worth a watch because it's just so curious. It's
the best kind of bad film where they didn't know they're making a bad film, so every decision is insane.
Yeah, and it's good to hang out with your friends and watch that. But the very end of the movie, when it shows it's one of my favorite endings, so I want to talk about it briefly.
Halloween,
yes. Halloween. We're going back to Halloween. One of my favorite endings. He shoots him, goes out the window, he's gone. You hear the mask breathing as the music, the unbelievable John Carpenter score starts to play.
Oh my God.
And you just look at all the houses on the street. And then it ends. He's out there. He's coming. He's alive. And it's the type of ending. I don't root for bad guys in films. I don't. But I do like endings that are brave enough to end pessimistically.
Right.
And this is one of my absolute favorites. And it goes bigger than that because the point is that evil is among us. Evil is out there.
And evil is such a great villain for cinema because it's one thing to be scared of a guy who's going after these 5 people for whatever deranged reason.
Mm-hmm.
In the first film, Michael Myers is just dark-eyed insane.
Yeah.
And that sort of unpredictable insanity, and also not knowing, I don't think he's supernatural in the first movie.
No.
He's just really scary, and apparently shoot him a few more times when he's behind you.
Yeah, he's really strong.
Yeah.
Obviously, he gets... Yeah, and there's just seems like there's a little trick-or-treater kid that bumps into him, and he grabs him real fast, and the music... when it happens, and it's during the daylight, but it's just so... Why didn't he kill him? Mm-hmm. It's just you
keep asking questions.
Exactly, and the what and whys of it. But anyway.
Last bit of trivia before we leave Halloween. So it was up for 0 Oscars, but I'm looking at the awards. It was actually in competition for Best Feature at the Chicago International Film Festival, which I believe is going on right now. And I thought that was awesome. It lost to a film I never heard of called To an Unknown God, but
that's cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
Really, really neat. I love that movie.
It's
I wish my
film.
girlfriend would watch it with me. I don't have a reason to watch it outside of that, except for just with myself. But you know what? That's a great movie to watch by yourself, too. So I'm going to knock that one out again.
And now, so we've now covered a deranged person. We have covered possibly the devil, definitely a demon, and now someone who is a mixture of both. But we haven't discussed an actual, honest-to-God monster movie.
That's pure. I mean, I would argue Jaws, but...
Well, I'm saying today.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant on the podcast in general.
No, Jaws is a monster movie.
Yeah.
But this is undeniably a monster movie, and one of the most iconic new monsters since the Universal monsters, right?
Yeah, I think that the film that we're talking about is a film that almost in a lot of ways is very similar to Halloween. It's Alien. Okay, so Alien... I saw Alien for the first time probably 3 years ago. I saw Aliens when I was a kid. I bought the action figures, like I was into that. But Alien I had not seen until later, because honestly you can watch Aliens. You don't need to see Alien with that. I mean, especially if you're an 8-year-old. And an 8-year-old's going to get a lot more enjoyment out of Aliens than he's going to get out of Alien.
Well, because Aliens, it's directed by James Cameron, and it's a super fun... billion bullets being shot movie. I like it more because it's just like it's one of the best action movies.
Yeah,
but it's not a horror movie.
It's not. It's weird because there's a debate about this. There's always a debate. What's better, Alien or Aliens? And the reason why I think that debate persists so much is because they're two different genres.
So what do you want out of a film?
Exactly. So we're not just debating. We're not just debating The Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises. We're debating a sequel, two movies that are in the same canon, but also two different genres, which you just don't find that. That's bizarre. Right. And I prefer Alien as an adult. I've gravitated more to that, and I want to let you sort of lead on this a little bit. And the reason for that is because I like this film a lot more than you. So I think your take is interesting as well. And
I'm going to be very brief about this because we're doing a 10, 12-minute capsule review.
Yeah.
It would be shitty to fraction that with negativity. There's so much good about this film. She's the only one out of these 5 that I wouldn't call a masterpiece.
Yeah.
And Alien, to me, has 3 perfect scenes and a lot of ineffective ones because I think the characterization is not well done for me.
Yeah.
I don't... The film is more interested in creating an incredible atmosphere, creating a really horrifying, unkilling machine. And it's a movie where a lot of people are going to get knocked off, and you don't miss them.
Okay, so I disagree.
Sure.
You don't miss them in the same way you're going to miss them in Aliens, because the characters in Aliens are a blast.
Yes.
All of them are so awesome. I literally know them all. I know all their names. I do not know all the names for the characters in Alien.
No.
I know Ash, because that's Ian Holm, and he's an incredible villain.
I wrote them down, so I know them.
Yeah, okay. But the thing I'm saying, I think that the movie had something else going on there that doesn't necessarily correlate to our context, our knowledge, because there is in this film a fight against the man. Like there's like, okay, so
it's very like corporate.
Yeah, there's a blue collar like message in this film that I don't know resonates as well today. Is it because a lot of films in this era had this? I mean,
oh sure,
I mean tons of them did, and they still do to an extent, but they're not packed around a monster movie.
You know, what I think is hard for me is that it's just because of the nature of technology. This is, films that many, many years in the future. There's so much space travel going on, and these are basically space truckers.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
I think the film is very difficult to convey that because every time they go into their pods or do their thing, it's still exciting and new to us, and the film doesn't always depict the lower class element of it to me.
Well, it's told through Harry Dean Stanton and the other guy,
Tom Skerritt.
Yeah. Okay. So they're the ones.
Yeah.
Because they're getting paid less than everyone, but they're people that has to keep fixing the ship. But like in fixing all the problems with the ship, and they have problems. Like they're the ones that convey that the most, but everybody has orders they have to follow on top of it. Why I love this film, like to me more than Aliens, what makes this film so brilliant to me, and part and why I don't like Prometheus so much, is because, and I know I've just opened a can of worms. Austin just smiled. He just did the Grinch smile to me because he likes Prometheus.
I am alone in the world.
but the mystery of the space jockey is so wonderful to me. The idea of that, whatever that is, I love that mystery. That Aliens never doesn't present anything new like that.
It's true.
And I love that. And that's what really gets me. So we don't really see the alien until, like, an hour into the film, right? And the real villain here is Ash, who's the cyborg that is trying to kill them all, basically, and bring the alien back because it's a perfect organism, and an unbelievable monologue delivered by a severed head.
And that's one of the three perfect scenes in my mind.
Yeah.
It's that moment of... And that's where you kind of... To me, I think it gets what the film is really going for, where these are second-class citizens in their mind, as this robot who has secret orders to basically go, if you've done something cool, we stop caring about you.
Yeah.
And this is way cooler than any of you. And as you're being killed off, just don't hurt that thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And that works really well, especially since you don't even know he's a cyborg. It's a really cool twist. And it just gets very gross, physically on screen.
Yeah.
I mean, apparently cyborgs have a lot of milk inside them, basically.
Whatever it is. Whatever that.
And it's so unnerving. And that's where... Because the alien, to me, is a really cool creature because it is just a really hyper-evolved animal.
Yeah.
It's
better than you are.
Yeah, it plots really well, but it plots like a lion. Mm-hmm. It's not holding personal vendettas in exactly the same way. You see it in Aliens and you see it in the sequels where they have more opinions on things. Mm-hmm. But this is just one rabid creature in this place. And that's where the film, to me, is really cool, because once that threat is there, every hallway is a possible death trap.
Yep.
And, we talked about the shower scene at the beginning of the episode, the chest bursting scene. Everyone knows it. But I don't think people recognize how just horrifying it is.
It's awful.
You've seen the parodies, but the real thing is... It's hard to forget that scene.
It's absolutely horrifying. And it's done really well in Aliens when she has the dream sequence in the beginning. It's done great in Prometheus as well, which is a different take on that.
Yeah, and also horrifying, because there's the element of body horror throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
And the one cool thing I like about the whole ensemble, people are going to get killed off kind of thing, much like Halloween, well, Halloween's a bit more obvious, you don't know who's going to survive in Alien, and the person who becomes the iconic face of the series is clearly the third or fourth character.
Yeah, for a large part of the film. Yes, they
her.
do. You're right. That's absolutely brilliant, how they do that.
She's an unknown actress.
Yeah, at the time. And she becomes a movie star after this. I love Sigourney Weaver. I think she's incredible. I think Ripley's incredible. I love that character.
Yeah.
And then the final moments where, okay, she's on this escape pod or whatever, and she's going to get out. You think the movie's, done, and then, oh, crap, the alien's on there with her, sleeping. Her getting into that suit... To slowly eject it out into space. So she has all these steps she's got to do that, because that's her only option. It's really tense. It's really good. It's so good. And then she gets in that spacesuit, and that slow turn of her eyes as every movement she makes, she's trying to be so still, and she slowly looks over at it. Oh my God, it's so good. I really, really like this film.
Yeah, Alien. It's really cool. And now let's end it with the weirdest and also the most modern. Basically, it's had films from 1960 to 1979, and now we have one from 2015, which I actually saw at the Chicago International Film Festival, and it lost the Audience Choice Award, but I adored it. I walked out of that movie. It Follows. This is a film directed by David Robert Mitchell. This is his second film. His first film was a very nice coming-of-age film about some kids. This is the most inventive horror film possibly since Alien.
Well, yes. Okay, so It Follows was packed. There was a 2-pack that year of 2 good horror films, Babadook and It Follows.
Which I both saw at the festival.
Yeah, and I feel like people go to one side or the other, and they argue why it's better instead of appreciating
I love them both.
Yeah, I like them both a lot too. I like It Follows better because the mythology that's packed around this monster is really neat. You're right. I mean, it's the coolest thing since Alien, as far as that's concerned, to actually have something packed around it.
And it's so rare in an era where we over-explain everything. I mean, Prometheus does explain the space jockey and all these kind of things. Mm-hmm. It loses the mystique of it.
I didn't explain why I didn't like that.
Yeah,
Prometheus,
but it
that's
has
why.
that element to it. It follows, and I'm going to be a bit vague about spoilers for this one because it's the most underseen of these 5
of course,
films.
Sure.
But we'll explain what it is. But the fact that these kids don't know how to stop it, they don't know where it came from, they don't really know how the rules work, but there's no... I hate those other characters in horror films. So the guy at the library who's been an expert on alien-based chest-bursting things for decades. And he's been ready to tell you all about it. Cheap. Mm-hmm. Cheap writing. This has these elements, so when they have the big confrontation with the enemy at the end, no one knows this is going to work.
Yeah.
If we don't know what his kryptonite is.
Because we don't know. And it's never been done before.
Yeah.
Like, it has a lot of borrowed elements, but it uses, and I'll explain that, but because It Follows could be the name of Halloween.
Oh, and this has definitely seen Halloween.
Exactly, and that's what I mean. So it borrows elements, but at the same time, it is some type of monster that just can't be. You don't know what to do with it. Like you assume when you see the alien, you want to blow it out into space so it can't get you in that movie. The Exorcist, you got to perform an exorcism. With the demon, Alien or Halloween, you need to apparently launch a nuclear missile and blow them up. But
these are physical things.
Exactly.
If we kill, Norman Bates, he's dead.
Right. This is new. We don't know how to touch it. We don't know what to do with it. I guess we can explain what the monster is.
Absolutely.
Why don't you do that?
So the film begins with a really, really creepy, horrifying scene of a woman being chased out of her house. She is running frantically and is trying to get away as best she can. And it's all we see is a suburban area, and she runs out of a house. Nothing's chasing her. Her parents wonder what's going on. Her driving away, and then we see her mutilated on the beach after she's waiting there. Just like something unnatural hurt her and put her bones in different ways. Then it's very kind of Halloween-like movies for quite a while as you see these new characters, how they're living, the crushes they have, how they live their lives, what they do. And one day, this girl named Jay, she has sex with her boyfriend, and shortly after that, he ties her up into a chair and explains the horrible thing he just did to her, which wasn't just the bad sex in a car. It was, there is a curse, and the only way you can spread it is by having sex with someone, and something's going to come after you. It is somewhere in the world right now, and it is walking.
It's walking
towards you. It will take any shape it wants to hide amongst the crowds, or it could be someone you know, someone you don't know. But it's going to walk to you. If it gets to you, you will die.
Yeah. And
the only way to save yourself is to pass on the curse. But if that person dies, it's coming back to you.
Yeah, it's working its way down the list.
The dread in this film is incredible, because with that, the film so brilliantly looks at what that premise is and then structures the entire movie around it. So it doesn't feel like a conventional horror film, because in every other film, all these Alien, Psycho, Halloween, we're waiting for whenever the killer wants to strike again. The killer doesn't have, the killer isn't waiting for the next dramatic beat. It is always walking.
Yeah.
It's essentially up to the character to decide when it's going to attack, because everything is structured around the geography of the characters and how much time it took.
Mm-hmm.
So they are constantly on the move. So they have to keep moving because the creature is walking. It will never run. It will just always be walking you. So if you drive a couple miles that way, you just bought yourself a couple hours.
Mm-hmm.
The director, once when people were trying to pick apart his mythology in interviews, said, but what if they fly to Australia? He said, then the creature will eventually get on a plane and get to, it's never going to stop. When you go to space, then it will eventually be on. It's never going to stop. It never has to rest. It never has to pause. It is an unnatural being that is going to slowly get to you. And one of the scariest parts of the film, besides every horror sequence, is she gets into an accident and she gets knocked out, and we don't know how long she's asleep.
Yeah.
And we go, crap. This is now the scariest thing of not knowing how much time you have left.
Yeah, exactly. It's the premise is so original, but also so obvious. I'm surprised something like this hadn't come about to this point, because it's just so neat. Yeah, exactly. Oh, I've been knocked out, or she's stuck in a hospital bed.
Yeah,
right. And she needs to get better. She needs to get well, but that thing's walking towards her. Wherever she goes, it's coming at her. And there's something so. On top of that aspect, the idea of spreading the curse is horrifying too. Like
it's just cruel.
Yeah, exactly. It's just cruelty. You've killed whoever you have sex with. That's just
because all these horror films are built around do whatever you need to do to survive. But to do that now means you are 100% killing someone, and
you're only buying yourself time.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
And they're trying to do whatever they can, but like there's no one there to explain the curse.
Another thing I wanted to bring up too about it, just how scary the film is and how it presents itself is because you were saying one of the scariest things in the film is that she gets knocked out and she doesn't know how long she's been out. So that thing's been walking to her this whole time. Could have been hours. It could have gained so much ground on her. Another thing that I think is really interesting is anytime there's a shot of a crowd, you're always looking into the crowd to see what's walking towards the camera.
Yeah.
You always are. And sometimes you find something.
And that is horrifying because it's always in the background. And the film is awesome because there's just so many wider shots to make you paranoid. And like Halloween, it's horror in the daytime. It's not as effective at night. So I saw this in theaters twice because I had to show more people this. And we left at 3 p.m., which you think is a terrible time to walk out of a horror film. No, it was a crowded street. It was so creepy. It was wonderful because you just don't know.
Yeah.
And also, only the people who have been cursed can see it. So it just kind of creates even more of its nonstop paranoia and unsettledness. Once Jay is cursed, there is no pause in the rest of the film, as much as they want there to be. Because even when you drive away to drive to the water or whatever, you don't know how much time you have.
Yeah, you just don't. And
they keep.
It's coming at you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's on its way. So, and that's kind of what I was getting at when I was talking about Halloween, how it ends on sort of a pessimistic note. This movie can't end on any other way because that's what's happening. I'm so, like, there's no beatable. There's no strategy involved here. There's no planning. You can't blow it out into space like an alien. You have to confront it.
And they keep challenging the premise in a cool way. Like they're doing things that
feel
make sense for these college kids to do.
Yeah, it's like and I want to get back to them in a second. But one of the things is like it's like a boxing match. You jab to feel out your opponent before you throw a hook or an uppercut. This is kind of like that because no one. You test the waters to see how you deal with beating this thing. And since we don't know, because we've never seen anything like this before, we in our own minds are trying to come up with our own hypothesis on how to deal with such a monster. And it's really awesome sort of going through this, the Rolodex of strategy on how to maybe this will work or maybe this will work. And I think that's really interesting. And the other thing that I wanted to say was that the outside of just how cool the premise is and how when it gets scary and shit does hit the fan, it's extraordinarily interesting and fun and horrifying. But the characters are really neat too.
Yeah.
The main protagonist, Jay, she's an extremely likable character. I mean, you don't want anything bad to happen to her too, and you go with her on this struggle and you feel it. I mean, you're empathetic towards it. So it has a cocktail of a good movie wrapped around the wonderfully horrifying premises, which was what I think in general is sort of separating these 5 films apart at their core.
Right.
They're not just great horror films, they're great films.
And, I talked earlier in the episode about the rock in my shoe of the character who doubts the premise. They do meet someone who is willing to protect them, but you don't, he just doesn't believe it. He's just kind of there to hang out with these girls mostly. And because he's denying the premise, it doesn't stall the plot. He's going to go like, we're trying to make sure you don't die.
Right, exactly.
It is, and the character of Paul, who's this guy who's had a crush on this girl for way too long, to the point where he's just a creepy dude.
Yeah.
Those people exist. They should be in more movies. It captures humanity so well in the most inventive, because there are so many horror films about horror films nowadays. This was not exactly that, but it definitely looked at what has been done and comments on it.
Yeah.
But, like, I adore Cabin in the Woods. It's not scary.
No.
It's a fun essay about horror movies.
Sure.
And this one is
Sigourney Weaver or something.
Scary. Yeah.
No, it's really scary. And, for just as what I gave for that preface of It Follows a Babadook, I am in camp It Follows, but Babadook's really good. And that was a movie that year. That's great, too. So if you haven't seen those films, watch them. They're both good.
Well, this is our 5. Do you have any kind of final thoughts on the genre, or any kind of other ones you kind of want to highlight real fast?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was thinking, like, while we were doing this, because we didn't discuss how we would necessarily end it, but it almost feels inappropriate. I was like, well, maybe we'll rate them like we do with the other one. This one almost feels inappropriate in a way because they're all so different.
Yeah.
And they're all just so great. I wouldn't disparage any of these films in that way because horror films don't have the luxury of rating them because there's so few that are so great. So I just kind of like let them ride. They're all great films. It was kind of fun visiting It Follows again in this context because, that wasn't that great, right?
Yeah.
To talk about it.
I saw it the first time and adored it. Saw it the second time, like, this is really good. I saw it another time, like, this is not my pantheon of horror films, which is only a 4.
Yeah.
It's these 5 except for Alien.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not kidding. This is actually with The Exorcist and Psycho.
Yeah, I'm always trying, and the thing is, and I talked to you about it, I'm always trying to find more great horror films to add to my pantheon because the cupboard's always so bare, and you watch more movies than I do, so I'm always like probing you for
what's
them.
Next? Yeah.
But we did have a blast the other weekend watching Devil as a total joke.
The worst movie.
It's so bad, but I just that was a blast. So I mean that's always fun too.
Well, there's so many different ways to do the horror film. I mean, we didn't talk about the Hollywood 30s and 40s. I really enjoy. Actually, it's more 50s, but your brother showed me House on Haunted Hill. That's really good and creepy and kind of in the vibe of that one's so because like it's a very Hollywood film, but you don't know what's real or not. So you actually see bad effects, and you don't know whether the characters made this device or the film made this device. So actually kind of adds suspense of like the bad effects make this brilliant because you don't know who's pulling the strings right now.
Yeah, and you never know. And what I love, and particularly it happens with older films with poor special effects or even great ones for the time or whatever. You don't know what's going to scare you because you can watch films that aren't horror films, but you get scared. You get a feeling of horror with them. Trip to the Moon.
Yeah,
I get that with that film.
Really?
The film kind of creeps me out a little bit.
That's one of the earliest silent films about people who go to the moon.
Yeah, that's all it is. But it creeps me out for some reason. Beauty and the Beast, the
French film.
The French film. The fantastical nature of the film, something about the beast and the setting and whatever, it creeps me out a little bit. So like that'll happen too, that
and
happens.
You're a big fan of The Shining.
Yeah, and yeah.
And I'm saying they're films that also evoke different things.
Yeah.
Because I like the Babadook. I think same way like The Shining, that it's affecting you psychologically.
Yeah.
And we didn't even talk about a real psychological thriller. We have films that talk about psychology, but the Babadook makes you even more freaked out about your own grief.
Yeah, exactly.
And I guess The Shining is isolation and madness.
Yeah, I've since read the book though, and I don't like the movie really all that much anymore.
Now we're on the same page.
I don't know. It's okay. It's just a completely different thing. What we've been talking about is how what's great about horror films is when the characters themselves actually are worthy of the majesty of the film, and like it's a great movie. It's also a great horror movie. The Shining is not really that. Jack Torrance's struggle in the book and Wendy's struggle, they're much more, and Danny's, they're actual characters. I feel empathy for Jack when I read the book. Watching the movie, no, he's a crazy man before he gets to that. I mean, before he gets to the hotel, he's already nuts. Yeah. So the plays its hand too much, and I think Kubrick's unbelievable. But
also, I mean, A Nightmare on Elm Street really holds up. I think it's a really good movie.
I need to see it again. It's been a long time. It's been since I was 8. It's been 11 years since I've seen that film.
I also the found footage kind of had its heyday and popped a little bit, but. I think Blair Witch and Paranormal Activity are really inventive and creepy.
Paranormal Activity didn't do it for me as much, but the Blair Witch Project, unfortunately, became a victim of parody.
Same with Paranormal Activity.
Yeah, just too much. But You were scared the first time you saw Blair Witch Project. It's just like, get off of it. Like, that was new, and it was exciting, and it was scary. It had actually very similar to It Follows in sort of that new regard of a new type of, like, scary thing.
And you also get films that really, like, I think often gore is just distracting.
I do too, yeah.
But sometimes it's used really well. Like, The Thing and The Fly are horrifying, and the worse things get for them physically, the more uncomfortable you are in these settings.
Yeah, or the face huggers from Alien and the chest bursting. So, yeah, sometimes it can be used. You know when it's too much. Like, you know it's, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, Saw.
Hostile.
Okay. Anyway.
I think this has been fun. I'm now, we'll spoil it, we're recording this actually on October 1st, and I have, like I mentioned, a 7-page menu of new horror films to watch. I want to go watch them right now.
Yeah, game to do it.
So this was just our bonus episode. Just a very fun thing to do, celebrate 12 episodes.
Let's call it a special, if you will.
It's a very special episode. But we're going to be back to our normal episode next Friday, where we're going to start a new 5. We're going to be covering Werner Herzog. And he has a horror film in that we're going to discuss in 2 weeks.
He's a crazy person, too.
He is definitely a crazy person. And we're going to discuss the story of a crazy person looking for a city that doesn't exist. In Aguirre, Wrath of God.
I haven't seen the film.
Yeah, well, look for El Dorado.
Yeah, okay.
We'll see if that's real. Or it's just bad things happen. So if you haven't seen that, it'd be a good time to check it out, as we're going to review it next week and the rest of Herzog's 5. But until then, we want to know about your favorite horror films. You can email us at letstake5@thearttomortal.com. You can tweet us at the Immortals Pod. You can leave a comment after this thread or any thread at thearttomortal.com. And I got another podcast on that site called The Immortals, where we review the 1001 movies, albums, food, songs, children's books, and TV shows you must see before you die. And yesterday we covered the Jim Jarmusch, Tom Waits, Roberto Benigni prison film called Down by Law. We did Nirvana album, and we did the fantastic TV show Friday Night Lights. So those are 3 very different things.
Yeah, they definitely are.
Where else can we find you, Eric?
Yeah, you can find me at Constant Diversion. That's my YouTube channel. So that would be nice, and you want to leave us a review too, because
they help people find us.
Yeah, we know we have an audience now.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem weird to bring that up. But,
yeah, it'll help us out.
Mm-hmm. Other than that, that's it. Constant Version. That's my YouTube channel. I review video games on there. You can check me out.
All right, this is our longest episode by a lot.
5 films.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. We'll catch you all next time. I'm Austin Luger.
I'm Eric Martindale.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Hello?
Why don't you want to talk to me?
Who is this?
You tell me your name, I'll tell you mine.
I don't think so.
What's that noise?
Popcorn.
You making popcorn?
Uh-huh.
I only eat popcorn at the movies.
Well, I'm getting ready to watch a video.
Really? What?
Oh, just some scary movie.
You like scary movies?
Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?
I don't know.
You have to have a favorite. What comes to mind?
Halloween. You know, the one with the guy in the white mask who walks around and stalks babysitters?
Yeah.
What's yours?
Guess.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Is that the one where the guy had knives for fingers?
Yeah, Freddy Krueger.
Freddy, that's right. I like that movie. It was scary.
Well, the first one was, but the rest sucked.
So, you got a boyfriend?
Why? You want to ask me out on a date?
Maybe. Do you have a boyfriend?
No.
You never told me your name.
Why do you want to know my name?
I want to know who I'm looking at.